right now on Higher Journeys with Alexis Brooks. Many of us in America and indeed around the world are still asking questions about what actually happened 2 days ago with the apparent assassination attempt of former President Trump. Now, the gunman, a 20-year-old male by the name of Thomas Matthew Crooks, news reports are now saying apparently acted alone. But the investigation continues with promises for an ongoing deep dive by the FBI and other law enforcement. Okay. Now, of course, many people are dubious at best, me included, about any of what's being shared about our news outlets. So, what else is new? In any case, the questions persist. What was the actual motivation? Who was really behind this? Was this an inside job, etc.? Now, look, obviously, the Monday morning quarterbacking, which happens to be the day that I'm recording this, has no shortage of tongues wagging. No surprise. But this is not what this commentary is about. I can promise you that. What you're going to hear from me has absolutely no political motivation. I promise you that as well. Any surface motive of any kind, for that matter. What I would like to offer, however, is a perspective that few will cover insofar as this latest breaking news is concerned. Now, when I first heard the news about this, I would say abhorrent event. Absolutely. Probably like so many of you, I was taken off guard. I think I was watching some gardening show and my husband walked in and said, "Hey, honey, did you hear the news about Trump?" And I'm like, "What?" And of course, I immediately changed the channel to the breaking news and immediately, admittedly, the temptation I had was to let the left brain take over and ask, okay, what is this all about? I mean, I'm never content with the narrative as told, as I'm sure as with many of you. But I did manage to reel myself in, zoom out, and try to process this from a, let's just say, metaphysical perspective. Because as far as I'm concerned, guys, that's the only thing that matters. All of the madness that we're seeing unfold today on this planet, on our screen of space, we call it 3D space, third density, whatever you want to call it, is nothing more than symbolic, I feel, of something else. It's not just a symptom of circumstances or even the consequence. It's a metaphor for something else, a larger message, if you will. So I want to share with you now an Instagram post that my friend Sean Stone shared with his followers yesterday that I saw, where he showed an image, now a shot, forgive the cliche, seen around the world, that of Trump. You've seen it shortly after a bullet grazed the upper part of his right ear, giving a sign of triumph with his closed fist lifted toward the sky. So Sean captioned this. I'm going to show this to you and I'll read it to you. Where have we seen this image before? Trump, right and wrong, represents America in a deeply archetypal way. The story playing out is about the death and rebirth of America as we survive the NWO attempt to absorb us into a global empire. The story is multidimensional, as are the white hats, as are you. This is a journey of awakening. Now, I may or may not agree with everything that Sean said in this caption, but there were several themes that I completely resonate with. Let's examine. This event represents, in my opinion, not just America, but uh, the entire play out of reality as it is right now in a deeply archetypal way. You know, when Donald Trump first arrived on the scene as a presidential candidate, and of course later as US president back in 2016, so many scratched their heads as to how someone so pompous, so unabashedly egotistical, and at times just downright bizarre could manage to hold what is considered to be the most powerful position of leadership in the world. How could this be? Now, again, for the record, I'm simply echoing a mass consensus. This is not simply my personal opinion. But as we watch this, let's say, just colorful character, we'll call him, emerge, complete with all of the accusations of his misgivings, to put it mildly, I had to ask the question, from a broader perspective, what does this individual called Trump truly represent, good, bad, or indifferent? Well, look, from an archetypal perspective, let's stay on this. There's this term that I became familiar with around the same time, around 2016. The term is called Hyoka. It's spelled Hyoka. Ever heard that before? I'm going to give you a summary of what the Hyoka means. Now, the Hyoka it's considered a sacred clown in Native American culture of the Sioux. I hope I'm saying that right. The Sioux, Lakota and Dakota people, Native American. The Hyoka acts as this sort of contrarian or jester or satirist. He speaks and he moves and he reacts in ways opposite to those around him. He uses satire to raise important questions. This is so important to me. He through playful behavior, he asks challenging questions. He voices thoughts others might be afraid to express. He encourages the audience to see things from new and different perspectives. The Hyoka serves as, I guess you could say, both a mirror and a teacher, using super extreme behaviors to reflect others' actions. And that prompts them to examine their own fears, hatreds, doubts, weaknesses. The Hyoka possesses this power to heal pain. This is important, particularly emotional pain that comes from their own experiences of shame, as an example. Hyoka can boast about shameful events, boast about them, beg for food, although he doesn't need it, but lives as a clown. He can make people laugh in moments of sadness and be a provoker, I would say, of fear and chaos when folks are feeling too comfortable or complacent. Anyhow, you get the idea. Hyoka is an archetype, right? Now, from a metaphysical perspective, here's my distillation. This Hyoka plays a key role as a sort of catalyst for transformation and enlightenment. But it happens through paradox. And by doing so, it challenges conventional thinking. And what happens is he disrupts the status quo. But the disruption isn't just chaos. The disruption serves a higher purpose of awakening individuals to deeper truths. Now, getting back to Sean's caption, he says the story, this story is multidimensional, as are the white hats, as are you. This is a journey of awakening. So obviously, this isn't about an individual whose name is Donald J. Trump, nor is the event that happened to him just 2 days ago. And God knows, sadly affected others. This was yet another example, again, in my opinion, of the chaos and disruption that just may seek to awaken all of us, to try to. In other words, it's not just the individual that's the Hyoka, but the set of events that have been playing out in recent years that represents Hyoka from a broader perspective. Hyoka, in other words, is not literal, but metaphorical. Let's talk about this idea of reality as a dream. It's connected. Stay with me on this. I just had the most amazing conversation with a lovely woman. Her name is Heather. Heather, where we talked about this idea of reality as a simulation. Now, she's a proponent of simulation theory, but not in a way that's now being discussed in some conventional science circles. She feels that the simulation is actually governed, yes, with binary code, zeros and ones, but she feels that the binary code is actually produced or created by one of two things: love or fear. And so you're literally experiencing what you believe to be one or the other. The feedback loop is in the code itself. I thought this was very, very provocative and profound. Now, in our general understanding of simulation, proponents say there is no matter. You can understand that to mean that even circumstances have no solid basis in and of themselves. Well, she went on to tell me that when you dream, as an example, and you're in the dream, there's no question in your mind about its realness at the time. You believe it 100%. But what she came to realize is that when you are awake and experiencing this reality, you also believe this to be 100% real, right? Ergo, there is no difference between what we believe to be a dream and this reality, which may also be a dream. Now, of course, there are schools of thought that really do feel that our reality is nothing but Maya, illusion. You've probably heard of it. There's a branch of Hindu philosophy that teaches that the ultimate reality is Brahman, this sort of singular, unchanging, infinite consciousness. Even Rene Descartes questioned the certainty of reality. He considered life to be nothing more than a dream. So when we take all of these things into account, zoom out, detach from the density and the emotion and the opinion of what happened just the other day, and for that matter, all that's happened over many years that ebbs and flows in and out of our reality. And we're tempted to take these things either in a vacuum as to their respective meaning or even as a string of events that spell some sort of certain trajectory. Imagine that all of these things represent one big fat dream, an illusion. You've heard this before. We are all characters in a play. We're writing it, we're acting in it. And most importantly, and this is a very, I would say, holographic idea, at any given time, we have the ability to change the scene and therefore change the outcome. Reality just may be, as my friend Michael Talbot famously said, malleable, plastic, and therefore changeable. So, as we look at what happened on Saturday with Trump, and God knows what else this dream we call reality has on tap, let's keep all of this in mind. It doesn't really matter what happened or who was ultimately behind it or what it means going forward. Frankly, and most likely, it will be in our deciding what effect, if any at all, it will have on us. You know that. Just like a dream or a nightmare, as it were, when you're in it, you're 100% in, you believe it. But when you wake up, though it usually takes a few minutes to shake yourself out of it, you do realize it was just a dream. Now, that said, we of course can't ignore, regardless of what all this meant ultimately, that individuals were wounded and lost their lives. Please know that my heart and thoughts, I know with many of you, go out to those individuals, their families, and friends. This may seem like a bad dream to them, but their pain and disbelief are brutally real. And for that, we send our loving thoughts and prayers to all affected and to Trump as well. But bottom line, it can be hard to resist immediately diving in headfirst into what happened and what this is all about. But I simply ask you to consider when you're truly asking what this event and others like it represent from a broader perspective, consider these themes along with the possibility that all of what we call the matter world, the physical, springs from the metaphysical, from the immaterial realm. That in a simulation, we are actually the ones producing the code based on our belief or thought about a given thing. It's governed by love or fear. It's governed by love or fear. But once the code is created in a simulated model, that is, has to play out. Just consider that you are creating the code, okay? Just consider it. Okay, now, later this week, we got Billy Carson. He's going to be joining us once again to share another amazing life story of his. I don't know if you've heard this before. I'm going to give you a little hint. I want to talk with him about uh, this possible intergenerational contact encounters within his own family. We're, of course, going to be talking about his upcoming second annual Conscious Awards and his brand new book, Fractal Holographic Universe. So there's going to be a lot on tap. But I really do, really do want to dive in, first and foremost, to a couple of hints that he gave on another couple of shows that he's done and a story that he gave me quite a few years ago now about his own contact encounters. And I'm going to try to connect some dots with Billy. So make sure you join us for that episode coming up later this week. I'm also going to ask Billy to weigh in on his thoughts about the Trump assassination attempt. Will he share a metaphysical perspective? Stay tuned, y'all. And you know the drill. If you haven't already, please consider becoming a part of our Journey Your Family here on YouTube by subscribing. And please, if you know anyone who may enjoy this content, I encourage you to share. Thanks, everyone. Always love talking with you, and I'll see you soon. Take care.